All right, so we should be live. If you guys are listening and watching, give us a little thumbs up. Give us some. That would be better if they could hear.
Or just like,
We're working out the kinks. All right.
it's been a minute. All right, it's been a minute.
That's why we're doing this special broadcast, just to kind of work out the kinks a little bit. Figure out, it's been a while since we've done this. Do we still remember how to do this? So, well, it's good to be back. We are live on Facebook as well. So
Somewhere?
What?
Somewhere
on Facebook, we are live. Not quite sure where we're live on Facebook, but hopefully you guys can see it. If you can, I appreciate you leaving me a comment or something. Let me know that you can hear us, see us. Everything is good. We will be coming back with Coffee with the Johns on Friday mornings at 8.
eventually, hopefully.
Yeah.
This is the second week in a row. We're like, this ain't gonna work. This ain't gonna work. This ain't gonna work.
Well, but we are gonna be coming back. It's just not gonna be as frequent as we used to do it every week. We're just gonna take it kind of week by week at this moment. So if you want to be on top of that, make sure you're a part of our text community so you'll get notified. Also, just pay attention to our YouTube channel. We'll notify you guys there as well.
We're live on our homepage.
On our homepage.
Yeah, so I went to Prime Homes,
Cool.
Home Solutions, and we clicked on it, and there it is.
There it is. So, all right. So it seems to be working. Happy New Year's. Happy 2022.
2022. It's my golden year.
Yeah. I was thinking back to 2019, 2020, when everybody's like, oh, this new decade, everything's going to be crazy. Everything's going to be better. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And then all of a sudden it's like 2020 came and just kind of kicked everybody in the teeth. So been
oh dude, I so many times I'm just like 2021, holy shit. Yeah. Last 2 years just poof gone.
It's been fun. We've been up to a lot of shit. What are you doing? Are you Googling something?
What? No, I'm playing with the Facebook thing.
Stop it.
What are you looking at? You're over there looking at your screen. What's the matter? What I'm doing?
To have a conversation.
I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you.
Googling and shit.
I'm just sharing it. I'm just seeing where it goes. Give me a break.
No, but today was actually a big day for us, right? We just closed on our own refinance of one of our rentals. Even though we do have 12 rentals already, this is the first time we've gotten it through traditional means of a refinance. We haven't gone through private funds or anything like that. A bank finally agreed to take the chance with us.
We're bankable.
So after 5-6 years of growing the business and always making money, they're finally starting to believe us now. So we're very excited about that. This makes it rental 13 for us. So it's a big step. It's a very big step. I had Logan comment on one of the posts say, now that you're bankable, you start reaching a whole new level of investing and being in a business. So let's see what that new level is. Got Phil Buys Home saying, yeah, bourbon on a Friday. Let's go. Yeah, what are we drinking?
Walking stick. Yes.
So John asked me, I tried it earlier. He says, so what do you think of walking stick?
Of the good old walking stick.
And I'm like, who's using a walking stick? It just, I don't know. Bourbons, they're very creative with their names.
Okay, like it's scotch isn't either, tequila's not either.
Yeah, they're very creative bourbon though.
Very creative.
We're finishing up on one of our new builds. So our biggest delay, what's it been? It's been the city, right? I mean,
the power. The city, and when it came to getting power to the property is what took for just absolute ever. I mean, I've been working on it for 3 months, and I think we finally got it as of like 2 weeks ago. We finally got power. It just the problem was so the house burned down 10 years ago, and there was a slab there. So the utilities to the property were already there, which is great news for the developer because you don't have to put those things in and you don't have to pay for it. Bad news is the city classifies it as a new build, but the utility companies classify it as an existing project like any other remodel.
Mm.
Well, like the city, me being the first time going through it, not knowing, like I go to CPS, like, hey, how do I get power? They're like, oh, you just fill this application. I fill this application, go through it, do this whole rigmarole, and then they're like, oh, well, and when I submitted for final like power, like, hey, I'm ready to go, they kept showing up and saying, hey, failed. I'm like, failing for what? And I call them, and they're like, huh, we don't know. And they're like, well, let me submit it again. Then the same code comes back. Like, well, we need to talk to somebody else. And like, finally going around and realize like it's like, it was the new build construction piece. They're like, well, this isn't new construction. Like the transformer and the it's already all there.
Yeah.
I was like, and they're like, well, you got to go to the city to do this. And I go to the city, and then that's when they're like, oh, you got to do this whole thing before you can release the permit for the CPS to turn it in. Like they wanted a whole bunch of tests done. One of the dumbest ones being a sewer inspection to turn on the power. I was like, what in the hell does a sewer inspection have to do with turning on the power?
And what did it have to do?
I mean, nothing. It's just their process. Like you have to check off all these inspections before they'll release the permit to the CPS to install it. Our plumber had to sit over there for 4 hours at $100 an hour waiting for the city inspector to show up. And then even the inspector is like, why are you doing this right now? Because apparently they won't turn the power on until he has an underground inspection. He's like, some days I hate working for this municipality. He's like, that is the dumbest thing ever.
The inspector said that.
Yeah, the inspector said that.
Insane.
And then when they put the underground in, the next thing is they aren't the ones that actually turn the power on. They just put the underground in. They're like, we're just the laborers. It's like, okay, so when did they? It's like another crew's going to come in and put the power into the transformer and plug the meter in. Well, they show up 2 days later, and then my contact that I've been working with for my project, comes in and calls me and says, hey, I'm so sorry, but they won't turn the power on. I was like, God, well, it's been 3 months at this point. Like, what the hell now? What's new? They won't turn the power on because the mailbox doesn't have numbers on it. Like, are you serious? He goes, dude, I know. I pleaded with them. Like, the numbers are there on the transformer right next to the service box. Like, what does it matter if that's not? He's like, and they wouldn't do it. So that Friday morning, he called me a Thursday afternoon. That Friday morning, I went to Home Depot, spent like $3 on the little reflective number stickers, went to the mailbox and slapped the number on both sides. And then the following Tuesday, we finally got power turned on.
Jesus. I mean, that's what we talked about before. And that was something I was listening to Dr. Mark Dotzer. He's this economist that we try to attend his talks every year that he does it at the beginning of the year. Keller Williams brings him down to San Antonio, and he does a whole talk about the economy, how he sees the market, and this man does not hold back.
I haven't watched that yet. I want to see the replay.
Yeah.
But that's what he said, like, because now he doesn't have to appease by any university or anybody. He's like, bro, I get paid to speak my mind. I'm speaking my mind now, because he used to be kind of reserved when he was working for the university
if
or
that,
whatever.
I mean, you can still tell what he really felt. But yeah, I mean, he did not hold back at all. But he was talking about all the things, and one of the things that he petitions and pushes a lot is how encumbersome it is to build houses. He says, he's like, when you look at the trend of home builds, he's like, we've been under what we needed to build for over a decade.
Yeah.
He's like, we are beyond negative on how much housing we need to provide. He says, and the demand and the rise that we're having now, this housing shortage, this inventory demand, he's like, it's going to go on for as long as we can tell. Yeah. He's like, this is not stopping anytime soon. So when people are telling us or asking us, all right, but this is going to slow down, the market's going to crash, real estate is in a bubble. Like, no. How? Not that I don't want it to, obviously I don't want it to crash.
Everyone talks about like how like the last one was, it was a real estate bubble last time. It's like, it wasn't, yes, there was real estate problems, but it was the lending against an asset that was the problem, against a specific asset, and the legislation that came around and extending back to Bush and his says everyone deserves to be a homeowner thing, his initiative for that, and where they changed a lot of the laws that allowed for subprime lending, the interest rates, the teaser rates and stuff like that allowed that asset bubble to grow.
Well, the adjustable rates, I remember some people would get like start at 2%, 3%, and then it shot up to like 11.
Yeah, exactly. So that is what led to the last one. So it was a lending and liquidity crisis. Well, they fixed that problem back in 2008. So now it's like there's plenty of liquidity coming around now,
Right.
trying to find a home in quote unquote assets. And that's why these values of the homes are going up. And now when you have like this abysmal inventory and this this issue with trying to build, I mean, we're running into our other new builds downtown to where it's taken us, I think, 4 months now. We've been trying to get the road approved. And the city's just like, well, we don't know. We got to talk to this other department and this other department and this person over here. But that person's sick over there with COVID and stuff like that. So they're really understaffed and we're all overworked. And then we're only working on a skeletons cruise. And there's like, our job has been sitting dead stop for 3 months waiting for the city to just figure out what they want to do.
Well,
as
and
far
then
as the road
the
goes.
holidays don't help.
The holidays.
It comes Thanksgiving and people check out until like what, middle to the end of January is when we usually start getting a little bit of normalcy. So yeah, I mean, and this is why we always tell people when you're getting into real estate, you're getting into flipping houses, building houses, whatever it is, don't get into it if you don't have the funds, if you don't have the resources, if you don't have the knowledge, because things like this do happen. Fortunately for us on these new builds and everything, we have enough of a margin that takes care of, possibly all of these delays and all these things. But
I mean, it's also just like, it just continues to raise. We're not a big developer by any means. They're building communities and stuff like that because they price a lot of this stuff in because they know this stuff. And we're just kind of jumping in and testing the water. But it's one of those that like, luckily values have just skyrocketed the last 2 years. And this has been able to work out in our favor. Yeah. Because like with these rising values is like, well, prices continue to go up, even though like it's taking us a lot longer, a lot more capital than we anticipated. The values have compensated for that.
Yeah.
And it's been very interesting.
And also keep in mind, anybody listening, if you have any questions or concerns or topics you would like us to talk about, put them in the chat. Let us know. We're having fun with this one, as you can see with the little bottle over here. So just make sure to let us know what it is that you're struggling with, any issues you're having with real estate.
Or what's going on in life.
Yeah, what's happening in your personal life. Get as detailed as you want.
So, I don't know. No, don't do that. So especially when you got bourbon and you got the New Yorker over here.
I don't, if you're asking for my opinion, you're not asking for politically correctness. One thing I wanted to take advantage of, I came across this yesterday, and I started I started listening to it yesterday, looking into it more today. So this is kind of what I've gathered. There's this big wholesaler that's nationwide. His name is Jerry Norton. And
Jared or Jerry?
Jerry Norton. And he is proposing starting a national real estate wholesalers association. So he wants to start a whole association for wholesalers to be able to represent wholesalers when it comes time to regulation, litigation, all of these things that are going on. Because more and more states right now are actually implementing and forcing that if you're going to wholesale, you need to have a real estate license. So which that's another thing that I'm curious about, because if you're going to wholesale, you need to have a real estate license, but as a real estate agent, you can't wholesale because then you're not doing your fiduciary responsibility for the person. So then wouldn't you are they wanting you to do that so then you don't wholesale because you're being in conflict? I don't know. I mean, that's kind of, I don't know what the goal is with that. Like, what's the difference of you having a license? Like, you're still not going to, if you're truly wholesaling, you're not acting in the seller's behalf.
There'd be a lot
you're
of
acting in yours.
There'd be a lot of legislation to have to go around that because, you have to put your interest before the other person. That means you would have to disclose, hey, I'm contracting you, but I'm going to wholesale this for a higher price.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you that I'm making 10, 15, 20 grand off of that.
Which kills the whole thing of
they're
wholesaling,
like,
right?
oh God, why would I sell to you? If you have a buyer that's going to pay $20,000 more, why would I? No.
I mean,
want that person.
How many times do we have even wholesalers that are double closing because the buyer, the investor, couldn't handle them getting that kind of a wholesale fee?
And that's one thing that would be I mean, guess good and bad when it comes to that, because like the good thing is like it wipe out a lot of wholesalers that don't have the capital to be able to close these deals and then resell them, kind of like one of some of the big wholesale groups in these areas do.
Mm-hmm.
But like on the bad side is like it wipes a lot of them out. So the only people that can do this are the people that have a lot of resources. So those fees actually might get worse for the end consumer of who is the ability, because now it's like, hey, they're the only outfit in town. There's way less people out in town. It's like, well, now my competition just went to nothing. So instead of saying I'm not going to do this less for less than 10, I can do 15, 20, 25 because I'm the only one out there.
Right.
So that, I mean, it's a double-edged sword where it's just like kind of be interesting to see like where that would end up going.
So let me share with you pretty much because I mean, I've listened to quite a few videos from him talking about this, and almost every video they kind of change what they're doing, because I think it's something that they haven't spent much time thinking about it, and it just came to them and they created a website and they're like, we're doing this. And now people are asking some really smart questions, and it's forcing them to stop and be like, huh, should we be doing this? So this is what they're saying right now at the most recent update that he had his attorney on. And you can go to their YouTube channel and check it out. Just type in Jerry Norton. I think his channel's Flipping Mastery TV, I think. You'll find it. I mean, it's all over YouTube. But they're going to be a 501c6 nonprofit. The whole purpose is so they can lobby for its causes. Owners cannot profit. Compensation for officers/employees is public information. Compensation voted on by board by the general membership thereafter. Can have up to 20 advisors. Conflict of interest policy. Any board member that will benefit from a financial decision is removed from voting. So this is what he posted with his attorney. And as I looked at all this and I listened to some of their conversations, one of the things that they brought up is that they need to provide specialized training to make sure that all wholesalers are wholesaling the right way using the same types of contracts, where not every wholesaler has their own type of contract. Nothing. Everybody's using the same contracts, the same assignment fee contracts, the same assignment contracts, all the same stuff. So
the entire nation.
Yes. So my question was on that, and to you, is first of all, who determines what the right education is?
Yeah.
I mean, keep in mind, this is being put together by gurus. You have Jerry, he's a guru.
Yeah, these guys don't make money wholesaling. They make money by educating about wholesaling. They probably make some money. They make a ton of money just being educating.
I'm not putting past that they make money doing real estate itself. But yeah, their big thing is YouTube, their courses, their mentorship, all these things, right? So it's him, it's the guy that likes to wear the tight shirts from TTP, that guy, and then some I can't remember the other guy. Some like brown skin guy. I don't know. He's like Middle Eastern somewhere, but he's American. But he's also all over YouTube. So, but they're all wholesaling gurus, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, so then who's going to dictate what the right way, the right education should be?
That's what I said. That's why I don't see this really gaining traction. One, everyone using the same contracts.
Yeah.
The National Association of Realtors don't even use the same contracts in every single state.
Right.
Real estate is a very, very, that's why nobody's been able to disrupt that industry, because it's so segmented, it's so litigated, it's so fragmented by state, city by city, jurisdiction by jurisdiction, that it's very hard to just say, hey, we're all going to conform to the exact same standards.
Yeah. Because
every state is different. It's like New York. They don't use title companies. They use attorney's offices. It takes 3 months to buy a house over there, when here it takes anywhere from 20 to 45 days, depending on type of loan and other situations and stuff, where every state is different. And you can see that it's all determined by their own legislature, to where we just passed a law, I think it was in 2018, I think they did it, to where it's like you have to disclose that, hey, I'm not wholesaling the property. I'm wholesaling my interest in a contract. So Does Alabama do that? Does Kansas do that? Does Texas or does what other states do that?
Yeah.
So like it would be like you can't have just a national wholesale kind of thing where like there's laws around that.
So here's my biggest thing about this, right? You know me, I'm very anti, you know, let's overregulate everything kind of thing. Once you start putting something in the line of regulation, I think it gets out of control very quickly. You know, and could it come back? Of course. But at first it goes to one extreme, then it goes to another extreme. And these extremes take decades potentially because it's politics.
Yeah.
So by the time things come around. So you're bringing wholesaling into politics now. You're bringing it into their purview where it's going to be, okay, fine. You can wholesale, but yeah, you got to disclose everything. You got to disclose to your seller how much you're making. You got to disclose to the buyer how much you're making. You got to disclose your intentions at the beginning. I'm like,
well, it's also well,
how bad is this? Because as wholesalers, you know, as good wholesalers, let me state that as good wholesalers, you have such a unique opportunity to help so many homeowners that are in real trouble. People that really need to sell fast because they got into financial hardship. People that really need to sell fast because of health issues. They need to move. Their house is deteriorated. They need this stuff, right? And it's your marketing, it's your effort, it's your knowledge, it's your resources that is able to help them get them exactly what they want, what they're looking for. Who cares how much you're making after that, right?
Yeah.
Like if you're solving their problem and you're finding a buyer where you're not screwing the buyer over and you're giving them exactly what they want, what does it matter if you make $2,000 or 30 grand? You know, what does it matter?
And I mean, I don't know. Well, one of the things like I agree with you, but and it's also one of the things that like something's going to come out of this because real estate's gotten so hot across the entire nation. Values have gotten so high that enough people are getting hurt and making so much money that legislation is starting to catch on. Well, it's also one of the things you look at it like when somebody wholesales something, who reports the taxes the wholesaler made?
Nobody.
That's
Nobody,
correct
because
answer.
the title company doesn't report
Title company doesn't do it. Buyer doesn't do it. Seller doesn't do it. Who pays the fee? Or who reports that?
It's up to the wholesaler to report that.
It's up to the wholesaler to report how much they make. And how many wholesalers, the people that we know, are going to say, yeah, I made $100,000 last year wholesaling properties? Zero. I mean, not very many. I mean, there's probably a few out there that do that.
We
wholesale stuff.
All transparency, we do tell them that that's a stupid move because at the end of the day, the IRS is always going to get theirs.
It's like they do
and
report.
If they audit you and they are seeing this kind of income,
they can figure it out. Nobody reports by a 1099, but if they start seeing a lot of stuff, especially this administration wants to beef up IRS. And one thing, I do agree with that. It's like, hey, I pay my taxes legally. I know a lot of people don't. So it's like everyone should pay the legal amount of taxes they're supposed to pay. And it's
we just lost all the viewers.
And there they go. And it just crashed. YouTube was like, whoa. Well, YouTube would actually like that. It's just, it's like where I was saying, it's like nobody reports that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So if they beefed up, then when they say like how many trillions of dollars are lost every year just by people doing tax cheats, not reporting, underreporting, doing all kinds of stuff like that, these are the type of transactions they're talking about because it's all a digital transaction. There is a footprint. They can find it. You're not hiding it. You're not exchanging cash. Cash is the only thing they can't track very easily.
Right.
So they can see it. Like they audit in a title company. They're going to see all these HUDs and they see these fees and be like, hey, let's dig into that $20,000 this person got. Did they pay taxes on it? Then they say, all right, there's no social security number. Who is this name? It's like they'll eventually track it down. So that is one thing I do see starting to be regulated before too long is like it is becoming a big enough industry. Enough money is transacting this way. They will do something to find those tax dollars.
Yeah.
That's one thing I'd never put past the government is to figure out how to make money.
And they can move because a lot of people say, well, that was 2 years ago. They have done it before and they will do it again where they can go and say, oh, we're implementing this law and we're going to go back 10 years to implement it. It's
what do you need?
Wait, what?
What do you need to open a bank account?
Exactly.
A social security number, an EIN number.
You're not making
All
money.
they got to do is find your social security number or your EIN number,
Yeah.
and they will instantly be able to link all your accounts together. All right, where's this link to a bank? Look at the bank, and they'll see all the transactions going in and out.
Yeah.
I was like, it doesn't take much. They don't need your approval to do that kind of stuff. Like, they will be able to
So-
figure that out, go through it, and they'll be like, And once they start auditing, they don't stop.
So let's keep going with their stuff, right? So the next thing they had was they're going to determine a code of ethics the wholesalers need to follow.
Oh, God.
And when they said this, I mean, you got to think about it. Like, you know, it's 4 gurus sitting around a table talking about code of ethics, right? And I just started, I was like, who is going to determine what the code of ethics is? Like, I've seen who you guys have associated with. And you have associated with some real slimy ass people, you know, just because they have the following, huh?
That's an opinion.
Yeah, sure. But they've associated with some really slimy people that, you know, we know are breaking the law. We know they're shady as shit, but just because they had the following, they're doing it. So then it's like, who are you to create the code of ethics then? Because you're already dubbing yourself the board members. You're already saying we are going to be the initial board members. People can vote us out later, which I'm sure, like every dictatorship, it's going to be, you know, it's going to change where it's like, well, only certain people can get voted out and it has to be by a certain, you know, I'm sure that kind of shit's going to come about.
It's the boys club kind of thing.
So you're looking at it and it's like first they want to determine the set education that you're going to have, code of ethics, and then certification. So they're saying wholesalers will need to become certified because their point is that eventually it's going to happen anyway. You're already having these states are demanding wholesalers become licensed. So he's like, it's going to happen anyway. So why don't we have them certified as wholesalers, get them licensed, so then they're able to perform. And I was like, okay, so here's another of my questions, right? Is that wholesaling, why does everybody get into it? Why does everybody start as a wholesaler? Because it's literally almost like the lowest barrier to entry.
Yeah.
And all they're doing right now is creating more and more barriers for entry. You're going to eliminate all the wholesalers like us that we didn't have any money when we started.
Yeah.
We were damn near negative in money when we started. That now you need to join a board. You need to get certified. You need to get their training. I'm sure their training isn't going to be free. So you need to do all this.
It's just like becoming a realtor at that point.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean anybody can get real estate, but you still have to buy the education. You still have to go through the training. You still have to pay fees. You still have to do these things. And it's one of the things like, do I see this like catching wind? No, because you look at your big companies that are quote unquote wholesalers. They still all buy it first and then resell it. So they're not wholesaling. They're straight just double closing. They're the owners. They bought the house. And you need that kind of money and that kind of power, because you can't tell me these gurus like this make enough. There's enough of them around that want to focus on this, devote enough capital to it to rewrite laws and legislation and represent this kind of stuff. 'Cause that's very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And your big wholesale outfits they don't care because all their agents are already licensed.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter to them. And I think that's why they do it, is because they just didn't want to get caught up and have something changed for them and ruin their business model. It's like, hey, they're all licensed. So I don't see, I mean, would it be cool? Would it be good? Probably.
Now,
but I don't see it catching wind because there's got to be enough money, I don't see them doing it faster than the city legislations being able to put against it. Because we already have the National Association or National RIAs, Real Estate Investor Associations, and they do some representation and stuff like that. So I just don't see that catching a big tailwind that's going to push them across this table. Because I mean, it's also like, who are wholesalers? I'd say teams of, like, as far as like ownership and like main players, not VAs and stuff, 5, 10, 15 people. I could imagine a team of 15 people all being like US based principals working for a wholesale outfit here in the US.
And I think you're high on that number.
Yeah, it's like I can't see 15, like 10 even.
Yeah.
Like 5 is still just kind of like you might have a couple sales agent stuff, but your turnover rate's going to be huge because by the time your agents realize all you're doing is wholesaling, they're going to figure it out and they're going to do it themselves. They already see that with like your big wholesale outfits that we call them, even though they're double closing. A lot of them figure it out and they go somewhere else and do it themselves because they can make so much more money. They can keep all of it instead of 20%. They get 100%.
100%. So, so then here's my point with all this is what I do agree with them is I do agree with investors needing to come together to fight these regulations. I think if as an investor group, as investors general, we all get together and we start beating down, our representatives and everybody and saying like, hey, stop pushing this shit because it's actually going to hurt. It's not going to hurt just us because think about it with agents with everything that we're doing. Like agents can't solve the problems that investors can solve. Their only solution, put it on the market. That is it. You understand? But when the house needs a seller lease back, you know what I mean? When the property needs you to help them like figure out how the hell can they delay the foreclosure so they can sell the house, all these things, what investors are known for is their creativity.
Well, and then it's also one of the things like it's more a rise of like, not to put a plug or toot the own horn kind of thing, like Stepstone. Like they're all investors first and then realtors second. I think investing is going to be quote like what their mission has been is being like mainstream.
Yeah.
And do a lot more for the investor community and the realtor community. Because like, yes, I'm a licensed broker in the state of Texas. With an associate broker with Stepstone, but I can do all the investing things and just being like, hey, I can do the lease back. I have the connections to find the capital that I need. That I don't need bank loans. I can do lease back. We do them all the time. We're doing one next month. And where it's like, hey, guy needs 5 days from extra capital so he can buy his house and just that little bridge gap. Yeah. I can do that. I can have the connections. I am the end buyer in that scenario.
And we've done it up to 3 months.
And we do disclose in the contract like, hey, principal of the purchasing entity has a Texas broker's license. Yeah. And they know that, but they don't care. Because at that point, they're like, hey, I got a problem. I'm solving it. I know you're making money on this transaction. I don't care.
No.
You've solved my problem.
So again, like going back to it, I do agree that as investors, when these things come up, because I think the most recent one was in Georgia, that they passed the most recent one that you need to get a license. And so it's Georgia, Pennsylvania, Oklahoma.
Well, also certain municipal.
Yep. That's the bourbon. That's
damn
the bourbon.
Stick makes you walk in and tongue. No, municipalities. Still can't say it right. Shit.
I'm not even going to correct it.
Yeah, not even a try. Municipalities are even coming out with their own regulations within the city of like Philadelphia.
Yeah.
You can't do this. It's like, it's not just a state. No, the damn city's saying like, hey, if you're doing these types of transactions, we like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's such a fragmented thing that like from city, state, local, and federal all have a say in how these transactions happen.
Yeah.
So it's like for a company to come in and disrupt the whole industry or a quote unquote national, when you said like unionizing it, union to come in to say like, you'd have to get like an act of freaking Congress to just redo all of the past 250 years of legislation to wipe it away. That's like, nope, federal government says this, and this organization is the person that does that. Like, no, the entire tax code, the entire political system, the entire governance system is based on creating competition.
Right.
Even though there's big players that are trying to manipulate that.
Well,
you're talking like massive $1 trillion companies trying to do that.
So the other issue was that, they said, well, what's going to happen is you're going to pay a yearly membership or monthly membership to be a part of this. And what we're going to do is we're going to use that money and all those funds to be able to speak to our representatives and do the whole shit that you got to do, buy off politicians and everything they do to buy.
Buy off politicians? They won't buy off politicians. What are you talking about?
Right.
Everyone's ethical.
Yeah. That's not how laws are made. But anyway, you got to do all these things, right? And it's like, how many millions of dollars are you going to have to get from members to be able to even put a dent on this? I mean,
that's what's saying. Your members, like you're talking, you're the base of people, like 1, 2, 3, 4-man outfits, maybe 5, 6, 7, like not very many. Like they don't have that kind of money. No. Yeah, they might make like 100, 200 grand a year, but they're not willing to chip in. Like, yeah, I'll throw an extra $10,000, 30, 50, 100 million, or not 100 million. Sorry, like $50,000, $100,000 towards your cause.
Yeah.
Get out of here. No,
Well,
they don't want
that's
that.
why, like, to
They don't
me,
want that regulation. That's why gurus and wholesalers like where they're at. It's like,
yeah.
hey, I have nobody in my backyard telling me what to do. I don't have to claim any of my income on taxes because nobody makes me report it. Like, no, they don't want that kind of that awareness.
And to me, it's like, we got to control like their whole thing, and they use this a lot of trying to control and organize and bring together. So it's like, all right, so you're trying to take something that's been very organic, the way it's grown. Everybody does it the way they do it. Each city, each area, each state, they have their own things of doing it. They have their own ways. You want to take all of that and combine it into one way of doing everything, of doing the whole thing. I was like, you're killing the whole spirit of what it is to be an investor, of creative real estate, of
Yeah.
being able to think for yourself and think about creative solutions. How can you do this? How can you do that? Like, you at this point, like you said, you're creating the National Realtors Association for wholesalers, and you're going to kill it just as they're killing it for agents. You understand? Like, to me, it's and again, I do agree we need to come together, but I don't think having a membership group that provides a specific kind of education created by gurus that all of a sudden sell education and mentorship, what a coincidence.
Yeah.
That's not going to influence their bottom line, and they're going to determine the ethics. And it's like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't see this shit playing out in any way that actually benefits investors and wholesalers, throughout this whole space. And then they're like, oh, and we'll probably have conventions and we're going to do this and we're going to do, like, okay, so you're going to have conventions. So that means you got to charge more because you're going to have expenses. You're going to have all this. You got to charge people to go to this convention. You're just a guru. Like, you're doing the same shit.
Yeah.
You went from we want to lobby for people to all of a sudden
dude,
we want to do all this.
Like the personality of gurus and their code of ethics, morals to me, and then you get them all trying to like govern this organization together. I think they just implode on themselves.
Yeah.
I just really think they would, because like I haven't met many like quote unquote like those guys are gurus. They make way more money by talking about real estate than doing real estate.
Yeah.
And I think they would just implode on themselves because they're all out for themselves. They're all like they try to play these games of, hey, we're part of the group. It's all about the community, but nah, not really. I'm trying to make money for myself.
And my thing is like, not trying to be so cynical and say, they're out for themselves and all this, but when you look at how
not trying to be what I'm saying. Not agreeing with me.
No, but it like, playing devil's advocate here. And it's just looking at the way they're laying it out, looking at all the things, and I'm like, you're doing too much already. Like, if your goal was to represent wholesalers and represent investors, what are you doing with everything else? Why are you trying to certify wholesalers? Why do you need to create a centralized contracts that everybody needs to use? Why create a centralized form of education that's created by you guys that everybody needs to follow? You understand? Like, you yourself are going to make wholesaling more impossible to do. Because at this point, like, these states and everything, they're doing these laws, but they're such stupid laws to get around. Like, oh, you need a license. Okay. Like, and? Like, where's the complication here? You understand? Like, I don't think that their reaction to the problem is proportionate. I think what they're doing is getting a little bit too out of hand, and I just can't help but think about how it has to be because of the money and the awareness and the reach you will have by creating this kind of buzz. You know what I mean? By creating this kind of noise, you're going to be covered by media. You're going to be everywhere. You're going to get awareness.
You're going to catch the wrong attention that you're wanting.
Yeah, but what do they say? There's no such thing as bad publicity. It's one of those things that's like,
I don't know. It's like in that scenario, like, wholesaling has always been an underground thing for a reason, and because one, it's not investing at all. Like, you're just providing a service at that point, and like wholesaling has been around for decades, and it's becoming more and more mainstream. The fees are getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger on stuff like that. You're gonna catch the attention of the people you don't want. Like they want the underground thing for the fact of the reasons. Like you can do those things, and there's a lot of shitty people out there that like, and there are a lot of shitty wholesalers. Like, and you know that 80-20 rule we always talk about. Like, I'm pretty sure I was thinking about this earlier for just today. I was like, I don't think the 80-20 rule applies here because, like, how many good wholesalers are there to bad wholesalers? And I don't think there's 80-20 of each.
You don't think there's 20 good wholesalers to 80 bad ones? You think there's a lot less?
Yeah, I really do. Because, like, once you start wholesaling, like, you move on to actually true investing.
Yeah.
You move on to buying. You move on to, because it's a fucking straight up, like, hard hustling job. Can you make money? Yes, but you have no reoccurring revenue. You're not investing.
You can't stop.
At all. You're not investing in your future. You're not investing in any kind of retirement. You're not investing in anything. It's like you're just making income.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's all you're doing.
You got to build systems. You got to build processes. You got to hire people. You got to take the risk, make the money. It's a lot to be able to have just wholesaling on its own as a business. Yeah. You know, and that's
the ones that have made it, you look at them and they look at like, what is the reputation amongst like legitimate investors?
Yeah,
it's dog shit. Like it's just like no, God no. Like you name any one of these companies and they're just like, no. They started
don't
off.
Buy from them.
They started. They started off okay, but now they're just terrible. So
yeah. Well, I mean, looking at also some of the changes that because I'm a big fan of the free market, right? And I believe that, yes, things can get bad. Things can go to shit for a little bit. But if you let the free market be the free market, it will correct it. You understand? It's just, and it will correct it much quicker than any government can correct it. You understand? But it will correct it. And one of the things that we started seeing is when you and I both started, we went from, especially when I started, like, 9 years ago now? I remember I started doing marketing and you didn't want to come off as a company. You wanted to come off as an individual because people, you know, it was after the 2008 thing. So people were like, I don't want to deal with big companies, with businesses, with all this because you guys, you know, you tank the whole economy and all these things and you're greedy, blah, blah, blah. So we were killing it with just doing postcards that said like, my wife and I want to buy your house. My family and I want to buy your house, right? Or Johnny buys houses and then Alicia buys houses. And it's always that very personal one-on-one kind of thing. And what we've seen lately is that we're seeing a lot more people as sellers like, nah, this is a scam. I don't believe you. And they start hanging up. Mm-hmm. So we started switching to our company and our company name and our website and our address, like showing them that we are a legit business. We are on the Better Business Bureau. We are, you know, on social media. We're everywhere. You can find that we are legit. Then you're talking to them now. Now that piques their interest. Now it's like, oh, okay, wow, that's great. You know, what's your business card? What's your business address? Where are you located? They want to know because they're starting to move away from this, you know, Johnny buys houses shit. Yeah. And they're starting to go to
my family wants to buy your houses. Because I remember when we discovered that, it was like, man, we just like discovered like sliced bread for the first time. Like
we were killing it,
blowing up, like it's crazy. And then all of a sudden, everybody started doing it. It's like it comes and it goes. It's like, oh, I get all these like wannabe, like my family wants to buy this house. My brother and I, my cousin and I, my family, my mom and dad, like they want to buy. Like, and now it's like not very many companies want to buy. Now when the companies come, oh, I'm going to go towards legitimacy, and then it's going to go away again. Like it's a roller coaster. Comes and it goes.
Yeah. So, but again, comes and it goes, but the market always corrects. Like it's always going to move and shift. And right now, for those Johnny buy houses, it's getting a lot harder to find deals. If you can't set up a website, if you can't set up an online presence, if you can't set up a company, if you can't show that you're a legit business, it's getting harder and harder to find deals for these people. Where on our hand, it's getting easier and easier for us to find deals. You know, so we're starting to see that shift. So if you're doing any kind of real estate marketing, you want to make sure that you are understanding what market you're marketing to. So this is something that, you know, I've noticed personally, especially, you know, with all the marketing that we've been doing, and we definitely pivoted. We made that shift. Yeah. We made that, and we're having people that are like, you know, because we do have this one seller that complained on our Better Business page And
3 years ago.
yeah, and it was a stupid complaint because it was,
And it got settled, resolved. Like,
yeah, we took care of it. But the point is that they went back and they searched that and they brought that up to us. So people are searching you. They want to see that you're credible. They want to see that that you are a real business and not just some schmo that just got started. So I think that already is going to create a big barrier for a lot of new wholesalers that have no track record. I think that's going to be something that's going to be a lot harder for you guys that are starting off. You don't have a track record. You don't have anything. What I recommend is work with somebody that does. I think, try to partner up. And I'm not saying go work for them. I'm not saying be their employee, get a W-2. What I'm saying is partner with them. Use their credibility, use their brand awareness, use their stuff to give you credibility until you build your own. You understand? Once you build your own, then you're going to be good to go. And who knows, by then probably the market shifts again. But I mean, it's one of those things that we're seeing that's just, if you don't pay attention to the market, you're going to be left behind. Yep. So one of the next things I wanted to kind of cover, moving away from this a little bit. So are you still allowed to discuss the foreclosure moratorium because your YouTube videos have been removed? Yeah, we're trying to be a little bit more real estate, specifically real estate focused, and try not to touch politics, even though now everything is political. That's nearly impossible.
No,
but yeah, as far as the moratoriums and everything, I mean, you can right now, as to my knowledge, you can foreclose. Foreclosures are back. Everything is black. Everything is back. The only problem is that we're seeing is that forbearance kept going. People can still push off their foreclosures. People that are proactive. So all the people that you're seeing right now getting foreclosed on are the people that are not proactive, or the people that are just let their house go to shit or just left the whole thing alone. They're the ones that we're seeing that are getting foreclosed on. But aside from them, everybody else that's actually approached their banks to do loan modifications, they're getting every benefit under the sun to avoid foreclosures. You got to keep in mind, guys, like the government does not want the housing market to crash. They can't handle it. They can't have that. It cannot happen. They cannot have the housing market crash. It would destroy the economy at this point. Right now, it was one of the economists that was talking about, like, we are a creditor nation. We need more credit. We need more, spending.
Well, it's also,
we need
like,
more
most
of this.
people don't even realize, like, when it comes to that kind of stuff, like, we need creation of credit.
Yeah.
Because as, like, most people say, like, oh, there should just be no debt. If you paid off the national debt, there'd be no money. They don't understand how the financial system works. Like, if you paid off the national debt, literally, like, if you read it, it says a federal, Federal Reserve note. Like your dollar bill, you look as a Federal Reserve note. It is a liability of somebody. If you paid off the national debt, there'd be literally no money left in the economy to work. As the population grows, as goods and services grow, you need additional money to support that. Otherwise, it goes down. And you can't have that going down when you work off.
That was one of the biggest arguments that Dr. Mark Dortzer? Whatever the fuck.
Dorsa guy, I don't know.
That was one of
I don't know his name. Sounds German.
That was racist. Anyway, easy Hitler.
Wow.
That was one of the things that he brought up, is that one of the biggest issues that we're having right now in our economy is immigration. We don't have enough of it. Because that was his point. He's like, you need more people. You need more people borrowing more money, spending more money, doing all this to keep this thing propped up. If not, we're going to become like Japan, where the Federal Reserve is going to be essentially investing in the stock market, as they have been, because there's not enough money moving and growing and circulating through the people to keep the economy going. So he was saying, he's like, if they don't get immigration up and running to take care of all these jobs that Americans are not willing to do, they're not willing to take because they want their pay raises, they want all these things, we're going to see that the government's going to have to step back in and dump even more money into the system because it's not working.
Yeah.
Like, they need people. You need a growth of population. You need a growth of credit. You need a growth of all this in order to do any of
you
it.
need growth. Just that
Period.
in
You
all
can't
facets.
stop.
You can't go backwards. You need growth of money supply.
Yeah.
You need growth of population. You need growth of GDP. You need growth of business.
Yeah.
You need growth of service. You need growth of everything. Like our entire society. Back to when first person discovered fire. It's like you need evolution. You need growth. You need change. You need things to like progress. Like our entire our core is based on growth and change.
Yeah.
Even though we all hate it or we don't like it, it's like that's what society needs.
So that was one of his points as well. Was like, you know, without the immigration, without new more people coming into the U.S. economy, pretty much, you're gonna see it's gonna be hard. And so this takes me to the next point and a question for you to see what your points are on this. This year, they're talked about they're tapering off and they're going to raise interest rates. What are your thoughts on the rise of interest rates? How far are they going to take it, and how will that affect real estate?
That was one of my topics I had in here too, is to talk about that.
Well, there you go. Tee it up for you. Ooh, stunned.
It's one of those. It's like I have no idea because there's so many strong arguments on both sides of it. It's like one thing they need to, on the other side they can't. It's like I feel so strongly on both sides. Like, what's gonna happen? I don't know. They're saying 3, and they're projecting these things. Like, and some people are saying like, they can't even do 1. The IMF just came out and said like raising interest rates could hinder the.
Who's the IMF?
International Monetary Fund? Oh, I thought you were saying you wanted to know. Like,
No,
you don't know who the
explain
IMF is? I thought it was a conversation you and I.
Yeah.
So the IMF, it stands for the International Monetary Fund. So that is like the bank of all banks bank. Like it's the one. Yeah, I don't know. It's like it's the ultimate bank of like all the Federal Reserves.
Yeah.
So it's the one that just. In my mind, it's the cartel for the cartels, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you look back on it, like, through the history of money and, like, how banks have evolved, there's always a centralized person, and that person screws up, lends too much, gets in a problem, and then there's a new one created that monitors these 6 that were created.
So it's the...
But then a new one...
Lucky Luciano of the mob family. It creates the organization and it runs the organization.
Well, that's the same. Like, it's just kind of how globalization evolved. Like, you go back to like the early 1900s. Like, I think our current charter of our Federal Reserve was created in 1913. It was the 3rd central bank that we've had in the United States, and so we created ours. 1913. You couldn't just pick up a phone and call anybody in China. No, you had to take a letter, write a letter, ship it all the way across there. Like I mean, look at the Titanic. It freaking sank in 1912 trying to cross the freaking Atlantic. Like, it was a dangerous trek to get across that giant body of water. There was no planes, there was no nothing, so it moved slow. So we had a central bank that created and ran all of the banks in the United States. Well, eventually you had the ECB come out, you had the Bank of Japan, you had the Bank of China, all follow that model. Well, now that they've all developed, you have one that says like, hey, globalization or more interconnectedness need one that connects all of us together. So they've started creating this other one. So now they are the ultimate backstop. Because what was it like? Jim Rickers talks about that, where like in 1998, the banks bailed out Wall Street. And then when the long-term capital management debacle, that started to bring down the stock market in 98. Then the federal government bailed out Wall Street in 2008, which means the banks. And it's like, now who bails out the government? It was the Fed that bailed out the government in like this most recent ordeal. And I go, well, who bails out the Feds and creates new money supply on top of that? I was like, well, you have this IMF body that can do this thing with special drawing rights. So that's what like the IMF is. Like, it's the bank's bank. Yeah. It's the cartel's boss. It's like, it's the ultimate chief that's kind of like, well, we don't play an important part yet, but we're gearing up to do that. So
what did the IMF say?
They said that a Fed rate hike could very well potentially mean it would be a hindrance to the economic recovery. So it's just kind of like saying like, well, the Fed wants to do this thing, but grandpa over here saying, I don't know if you can do that.
Which to me
It's all
is
power
common
grab
sense,
too.
but
It's
it's
a power
also
grab.
common sense because we don't have a strong economy right now. We didn't have a strong economy before the pandemic hit. We don't have a strong economy now.
What is a strong economy anymore?
Exactly.
What is a strong economy?
That is the
It's
point.
like, as long as the money keeps flowing,
They
the
keep
frickin'
moving the
thing keeps turning,
goalposts.
and it changes.
And what did they come out and say? One of the Coffee with the Johns that we did, we talked about how they said the money supply, don't pay attention to that. We don't pay attention to the money supply anymore. Unemployment, stop. We're not paying attention to unemployment anymore either. So you're looking at all these things. It's like, all right, so the metrics that we use to gauge a strong economy, you're moving, you're changing, you're moving them to something else. So, okay, I guess we have a strong economy, even though inflation is through the roof and like unemployment is still pretty high. Underemployment is really high. You have people that are having to work 2-3 jobs and still not even make ends meet. Like, I mean, it's all over the place. So you're going to go ahead and stop tapering and raise interest rates in this essentially weak economy, like a realistically weak economy. So what's going to happen is, what I think is going to happen is you're going to have interest rates are going to rise. Interest rates on homes are going to rise. Buyers are going to go down. Inventory, the buyer pool, everything for houses is going to go down. Housing prices are going to start stabilizing a little. And I think that's going to scare the shit out of the Federal Reserve. They're going to be like, holy crap, the housing market is going to crash. Let's start pumping money back in. Let's lower interest rates again, because we need to prop this thing up.
Lower interest rate again. They can't. It's already at zero.
We're negative, not
That's
zero. When you take interest rates,
interest rate is zero
plus inflation.
we're at a negative 6%, and
we are literally at negative interest rates
right now. Do you know that you can buy a TIP? TIP stand for Treasury Inflation Protection Security. TIPS.
Just the tip.
Yeah, TIPS, Treasury Inflation Protection Security Instrument from the Federal Reserve, or from the U.S. government right now, that pays 7% for 6 months. Yeah, because it's pegged to the rate of inflation. I don't know how the inner workings of that work. Of like, why would the government sell something that is based on the rate of inflation? I know they exist, and there's one thing that Ray Dalio had a big part in creating those debt instruments.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can buy a 7% yielding, straight from the actual Treasury Department. You can buy a 7% yielding bond it's like a 6-month ordeal. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Tommy puts job creation is a strong economy because jobs have shaved for hella taxes. I mean, I think right now what they're trying to do, what they're pushing to do and everything, they're doing it because they have no other tools. They can't keep going this way. They can't. I mean, can't. Who the hell knows? They've been changing the rules all this whole time, But it's one of those things that you got to pay attention. Bringing this back. Let's bring it back into real estate. When you say, what does this mean for the real estate investor? Well, this means that if you're living in a place like Texas, real estate is always going to be in high demand. You have an undersupply of inventory. You have an over demand of population.
Yeah.
You have more and more people.
Over demand of population.
No. Overflow? No.
Over demand of population.
Huh.
I don't know.
I don't know what the word would be then. But we have a lot of population.
Just say that. Like,
this is why we do it with coffee and not whiskey.
Not whiskey. Yeah.
But we have a lot more population coming, and I had somebody comment actually on one of our videos, and he says, "That's it. Everybody that was going to move already moved." I was like, "You don't understand how these things work."
I just put a house up for rent a month ago, and I had like 4 people ready to rent our property, sight unseen, ready to put the deposits, do whatever they could do, and just be like, "Hey, I don't have a job there because I'm leaving California. I want to move there. I'll pay 6 months in advance." It's like, damn, they're ready to put their money. We're like, yo, I will just pay to secure a house in Texas to get the F out of here. And they're like, we're just trying. Like, they didn't pick San Antonio. No, they just picked Texas. He's like one of the guys. When I called him back, he's like, I don't know where we're gonna move yet. We're just gonna move wherever we can find a house that's willing to accept our, because they don't have a job. Like we're just willing to find. We're just trying to find somebody that's willing to accept the fact that we don't have a job and we're relocating there.
We're coming with a shit ton of money. So
we're
willing to overpay.
Yeah, he's like, we got $40,000 in savings. I'll pay a year in advance. I don't care. My wife's an RN. My wife's an RN. I was like, obviously, a nurse is going to find a job here. Like
you would think.
Yeah, and that was one of four. That was like sight unseen. Can I move in?
And that's what I'm saying. Like when people say, oh, Texas, that's it. More people are not going to be leaving. Bullshit. When you're looking at San Francisco, because you have LA, everything, the crime rate has been beyond ridiculous.
Oh, did you see
they're robbing trains?
The governor just came out and admitted that LA looks like a third world country because of the crime.
The governor.
Newsom. Oh,
really?
Second year in a row, he was rated the best salesman for U-Haul again. They literally, I saw an article, they ran out of U-Hauls. U-Haul ran out of inventory. They just
oh my God.
We know you want to leave, but find your own way.
Honestly, if I was a CEO of U-Haul, I would send them a plaque.
Bro,
like, you are the number one salesman.
I was just like, you've got to be kidding me. You ran out of U-Hauls from Illinois. I think it was Illinois, New York, and California. They're like, like they came out with a public statement and just be like,
for people looking for gig work, I wonder how many, if you can work for U-Haul, like going to these states to get the U-Hauls back
just buying
to California.
Yeah, dude, just get you an F like 550 and just load up freaking U-Hauls and just drive their asses out there. Be like, yo, like they'll probably be like, we're charging so much money because these Californians have so much money. Yeah, we're good. Yeah. Like it's like just get them out here, please. Like we can't even get trains out here.
But that's it, right? Like the crime rate in California has been through the roof. They're robbing. They were showing the other day they were robbing trains. They were carrying like Amazon packages, everything. Like when the train slows down going through like a section of the city, you have people coming through with bolt cutters, with everything, cutting the locks, open shit up, stealing all the packages, throwing packages. Like it was in every direction that you look, just a landfill of packages.
Yeah, I saw that. Like, I saw a picture of it. Like the railroad moving through a railroad, rolling through LA. There's just packages and trash everywhere.
So they ended up doing a survey of like in San Francisco, how many people would move and everything, and it was something like 80% of the people that were surveyed. They're saying they're already in plans to move within the next year. They're already planning. They're tired of this. 80% of the people they surveyed. And it's just one of those things that like, yeah, you have crime. You have all these things. It's so much for defund the police. That shit didn't last.
Dude. Well, that's also one thing. It's like, you and I have had this conversation. Like, my girlfriend's from Southern California. We have a lot of family out there in Southern California. That it's like, that's what's needed, though. Yeah. That is what is needed, because when people move, especially people with money, because they have the capabilities, your tax base leaves. And when your tax base leaves, the government runs out of money. They go bankrupt.
Yep.
And what is it? States can't go bankrupt, but cities can, right?
Oh, shit. I don't know. They change the rules all the time.
I don't know, but that's what's like, because California is a very beautiful place. Like, it is so cool. Like, when I graduated like college, I was like, man, I want to go to California. I want to go to Texas. I want to go to Florida. One of those three. Visited California, and I was like, yep, nope, going back to the west or east. Like, I'm going back there. So Texas landed here. I'd still go to Florida. Florida's awesome. But California, no. I was like, I would never live there. Like, I have family out there. And they're like, I am ready to pack my bags and head to Texas, man. So, like, I'm so ready.
So as a real estate investor, when you're looking at that, people are leaving California. They're selling whatever little shacks or anything they own over there. The only thing that's making
the values go up is the fact that there's just no houses. Like, they've underbuilt California, because you want to talk about restrictions to build. Like, California is like top of the list of like the shit you have to comply with. They literally came out and said that they were going to fill this is when I was in college back in like 2010, 12. And they said that they were going to fill gaps in the government budgets with stormwater prevention plan fines on developers. Literally came out and said that. It's like, hey, we're going to put out so much restrictions on just stormwater and runoff from your job sites that you're just gonna have to pay us a bunch of money.
Exactly.
So what'd that do? That just took every developer's price. Like, well, we're just gonna have to put in like an extra 20% of our build cost to pay government fines because we just can't adhere to these standards.
Yeah.
So they just blatantly just say like, you know what, screw it. We're gonna have runoff and we're gonna have to pay fines. We're gonna put that into it on our build costs.
Nice.
Yeah. And like, where does that go? And everyone blames the developers for charging so much money. It's like, no, look at why we pay, why we charge the prices we do. The things that we have to work with, like when the government, or 3 months to get power to a property, or 3 months to figure out what they want to do with a road. And like, that's where that money goes.
Yeah, I think when going back to it, it's like when people say, you know, especially that one guy that he commented, he's like, that's it. You know, real estate in Texas is in a bubble and all this. I was like, I don't know where you're pulling this from. Like, we're using actual data. I don't know what bubble you're talking about in Texas. We have underdevelopment. We have demand going through the roof, and it's not slowing down. It's not stopping. We're having more and more people coming down here from California or all these west side states, countries.
West
They
side
should be.
countries. West
West Coast
states. Let's go to West
states.
Coast states.
That's what
West
it was
side
like. West side
countries.
countries, the West Coast states. But you have Seattle, Portland, California. You have all these coming down, and their money in Texas buys them a lot. And you go to little California and Austin, and people are just buying places like crazy and all around there. And San Antonio is becoming another one that's becoming a good hub for people to come to. It's extremely affordable. So when you talk about the real estate market, it's like Texas got way too much room to grow.
Oh,
Way
we
too
got
much
land. We have
Oh.
land. That's
insane.
it. Land. We don't have mountain ranges like California's got, or deserts they have to deal with.
Yeah, you don't.
And
You don't have scenery worth of shit here, but
We
it's
got,
still
we got land, bro.
That's it.
Like, I don't give a shit. Like, it means
Yeah.
like we can build for miles out that way. We don't have to go build up a hill. We don't have to move rock.
I
We don't have
heard
to divert a river.
I heard a joke recently that says, when you go to West Texas, you can see your dog running away for 2 weeks.
that was a joke in Kansas too, dude. That was a joke in Kansas. Like when your dog is like, well, I can watch my dog run away for 3 weeks because it's flat pancake. That's it.
But yeah, I mean, so we have a lot going on. We have there's a lot coming down, especially economically, policy wise.
There's one thing I wanted to mention.
Go ahead.
So there's a lot of pressure under Texas when it comes to property taxes, right? Just split that. Just split
I don't
that
think
a little
there's
bit.
enough
Just
for
split-
both.
Just split that a little bit. Don't take it
Okay.
all. Don't be a hog. So there's a lot of pressure under Texas when it comes to property taxes because we don't have a state income tax. Everybody knows that. So it's great to be an employee here, or an employee, not an employer, employee. Because you don't have to pay state income tax. So
Right.
your income comes in higher, but the way the state gets their revenue is via property taxes. Well, with these rising prices of the West Coast, the East Coast that don't have that, when they sell their house making $300,000, they come here and overpay cash. It's driving prices up. Well, the people that have lived here forever, the employees and the employers, are getting a lot of pressure, being like, we have to raise wages because living standards of just being property taxes. So one of the things is there's a lot of pressure to do something with property tax reform. Well, so what happens with that? If they reform their base of income from the government, like, they have to get their income from somewhere to run the government, right? So if they were to say hey, we're going to eliminate property taxes. We're going to freeze property tax. We're going to do something with the tax rates of property taxes. What do you think that would do to property values?
Oh, they would shoot up. Because, I mean, it's the only thing that would make
Because when you look at your payment, what does it take into account? HOA fees, taxes, and insurance. So if your tax base drops or freezes or drastically slows down, that means it's going to accelerate. Maybe I shouldn't be saying this. Don't buy in Texas. Yeah, don't come here. Like, let us buy all the houses before that happens. But I'm saying, like, what would that happen to tax value or property values? they would accelerate and go even faster, because like one of the things that California did, I can't remember what proposition they did, whenever it was, when you moved in, it froze your tax basis, I think it did, and until you sold your house, like it wouldn't
Right.
jump up.
Yep.
So a lot of people's value, that's when values just, that's why California, everyone looks at like California, $800,000 house buys a $250,000 house in Texas, because it's not based on price, it's based on the mortgage and the debt and things that go into that allow you to purchase that house.
Right.
That's what drives those values. It's all about the mortgage payment, because who the hell buys their property like true quote unquote cash nowadays, besides people moving from California to Texas. But if you're moving from in Texas to Texas City, unless you own your house free and clear, you're probably not really buying cash. And even if you buy cash, you're usually leveraging with debt. But now when you have this abundance of cash buyers moving here, that's driving property values way up, and all the people that have lived here forever are being like, what the fuck, my mortgage payment's getting so astronomically high, you guys need to do something. All the grassroots people that have lived here, the politicians that are from here and been in office forever, are being pushed to act. So I think that's something that's going to come to head before in the next, is that the right term? Come to head? I don't know. Like what's going to happen in the next couple legislatures, when like there's going to be a lot of pressure when it comes to property tax. Like there was an article I just saw on, I think it was the Texas Tribune, of like where where all the candidates stand on property taxes. And there's billboards out right now that's one of the guys running says eliminate property taxes. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that plays out. And like it's not going to come from income taxes, because they passed the Texas state constitution, which takes like a massive majority to overturn that there will not be a income tax here. So
Tommy says it's said come to a head. So
come to a head. Okay, well I was right, that was one of my options.
But he talks about disposable income, and that was another thing that Dr. Mark Dotster, damn, as the day goes, we keep fucking up his name. But one of the things he talked about is he says that household debt has tanked tremendously.
Yeah,
during this last time. So when we talked about at the beginning how we need more debt, we need more growth, we need more spending. When you had in this last time household debt like dropping I don't know how many trillions of dollars.
They paid so much money for stuff. Yeah,
because they were given so much money, and people had so much money to just pay off their debt. That's the first thing they did.
So that's one of the arguments against rising interest rates, is like the average consumer can withstand those rises.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have the income. Yeah, but they have to do it in a slow enough increment to allow them to be like, ooh, I don't want to freeze up and just like stop spending. Like they need to make them feel comfortable. Yeah, you're gonna have these, like the stock market's dropped 10%, the Nasdaq's down 10%. It's in correction territory, and with these fear of rising interest rates. Well, yeah, but that's how it works. And prior to 2008, they said they had like an average like 1 to 2 corrections a year. We haven't had like a 10% correction since 2009 because of all this money printing and stuff like that. So
yeah, I think it's gonna be one of those things that when it comes time to the money printing, that he talked about also about the oil, right? And he says oil is going to hit $100 a barrel easily, because with all this disposable income that people have right now and the lack of debt, they're not going to think that far, about how high gas prices are, because they have the money to pay for a tank. They have the money to pay for that gas. You understand? So he's like, because they have that money and they're not going to fight back. It's not like gas sales, people filling up the tank is going to go down. They're like, it's going to keep going up. We're going to see gas prices. He's saying gas prices are going to go, oil is going to go above $100 a barrel. And
what did it get to in like 2000? What was it? 2000?
I want to say it was
7, 8, 9.
It was after that, but yeah, it was 100.
What did it peak at? Like 140?
Yeah, it was up there. It was like 130 around there. That was when I did really good and sober.
Could you imagine what that would do now though? Like prices back then were here in Texas or something like that was like $3.25 kind of stuff. But like, could you imagine what that price would do now because of all the inflation of all of the production, all of the fuel, everything else that it takes to create? A barrel of oil was high, but the price of production and everything else was lower. So if you got up to that now, what
Well, that's the problem, I think, too, is that people look at how does it affect everybody, or how does it affect me now today, right? But nobody looks at the repercussions of that action in the coming years, in the
Yeah.
coming months. How is that? Because of that, it slowed down this little sector a little bit. That little sector slowed down that one. That one slowed down the other one. And then full circle comes around and it's like, oh shit, this has actually created a big problem, a year down the road. It was one of the things when the pandemic first happened, people were asking us, how did the pandemic affect you? And it's like, as of right now, it hasn't. But we don't know when this thing comes back around. And when it came back around, lumber prices went through the roof. Materials are hard to find. Labor was hard to get. It's still hard to get labor.
Yeah.
So when it comes back around, it's like now it's affecting us. Now it's becoming an issue. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like, yeah, we just don't know what it's going to look like by the time it comes around. So when they're doing all these things that they're doing, and I mean, let's say what it is, it's experiments.
It is. And that's just said, like, everyone says, like, oh, when you say it's been propped up forever. Like, when does the prop up become the new normal? I bet if you go back in time 50 years, there's people saying the exact same shit. Like, oh, the government's propping it up. They're propping it up. It's always propped up.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, but what was the stock market? What were the real estate values? What were the things back then? Like, that's their job. Yeah, to prop it up and be the backstop. It doesn't matter. Like, yeah, it's propped up because it's always supposed to be propped up. That's by design, is to keep it propped up.
Yeah.
To not let it fall for too long or too far. They want it to increase, especially when you're the U.S., when it's like we want to preserve our ability as the reserve currency around the entire world and all the luxuries that come with that. Like, we have a lot of shit we can get away with. That
Well, and not just that, a lot of shit that we can get away with, but they always say, I find it funny when people are like, oh, you're going to see China just rise up and take over and everything. It's like, they're doing the same shit. Like, I'm
Dalio
sorry.
even says that. It's like,
China isn't, this fucking unique chess player over here. Like, they're doing the same exact shit the U.S. is doing. They depend on the U.S. for everything. They can't innovate a goddamn thing without stealing it from us. So it's like, where do you see China stepping in on, stepping over all this? Like, it's not going to happen. That's where I see is the issue, is that there's really no threat. In my opinion, of course, could be 1,000% wrong. This is, I'm not an economist or anybody that gets paid to be wrong. But, that's my guess, is that there's nobody to compete against the U.S. at this moment. You understand? So the U.S. has no reason to stop doing or be afraid, because it's like, all right, we'll change the rules. We'll change the game. And what else are you going to do? You're going to adapt. You're going to adapt, and you're going to do the same shit we're doing.
Like, there's just so much shit that's like, yes, China has a lot more population capabilities.
Mhm.
Look at it that way, because they have 3 times the population that we do. But it's one of the things, like, they also have, when it comes to a Achilles heel of the way they run their government, there's so many different things. Like, they will surpass us eventually as the largest economy, just because the fact they have 3 times the people, 3 times the consumers, 3 times the producers. Once they're able to change, like, the mentality of those people, they will overtake it. But doesn't mean they're gonna, like, so if they're the second largest economy, why are they so small in the SDR? Well, shit, I'm moving to something different. Well, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, but that's also the thing too, is that you got to look at how the U.S., or whatever anybody wants to say, still has freedoms. China
Yeah.
never has. You're gonna do
Yeah.
what they say when they say, and that's it.
Yeah.
So that gives them a unique ability of saying, like, the public is gonna buy what we say. They're gonna do what we say. They're gonna abide by our rules. Period. They don't have a choice. This isn't a democracy. You understand? So I think in that regard, it could be a little different, but they depend on us. We depend on them. It's too much of a mutual assured destruction thing that,
oh, for sure. I
don't
mean,
know.
it is, hell, I don't know. Everyone talks about, like, the fear mongering, like the headlines, everybody trying to get a piece of everything, of just, oh, they're gonna do this, they're gonna do that. It's like, we would all just blow each other to bits. we would blow each other to bits if it came to a nuclear war. If
No,
all out like
it wouldn't be.
guns and fire war. Like it just wouldn't work. There would be
And
way
we
too
just
much.
got banned from YouTube.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm just kidding. It's the whiskey.
But I mean, that's the shit that we talk about. Like, we don't feel that it's gonna come down to any kind of war that way. If anything happens, it's gonna be a financial thing. It's gonna be, you know, technology wise. It's gonna be currency wise. Like, it's not gonna be anything like physically, because it would be stupid at it for any country at this point to literally declare, you know, physical war on somebody. It's like, well, we'll just kill each other and then what?
Yeah, we just blow each other to bits and just do like. I don't think what we need is like we need Elon Musk to fly to a different galaxy and create our like a new common enemy we can all like ban against and like because I've like we. Sorry, just epiphany blows. Like somebody is always after the guy at the top.
Yeah.
So if there's nobody like the top's been the top for so long that we just create a lot of infighting. Like, but if there's like it's always funny when you see like Armageddon, one of those old movies where like the world came together to defeat a common enemy, like a comet coming to the world. Like you need something kind of like that. I'm just like, we need something like to come up to challenge everything to bring everybody together. Yeah. But who knows?
Well, yeah, and especially but again, you know, this is why we do it over coffee and not whiskey. Topic gets a little sidetracked a little bit here. And we are finished with a bottle, so we will be finished with this episode. So letting everybody know, we will be back, Coffee with the Johns, Friday mornings. Stay tuned to our YouTube channel and Facebook as we did our test right now. It seems like Facebook worked out pretty well. So we will be doing it on both platforms. Not every Friday. We're going to be picking pretty much when we have good topics and things to talk about.
It's fluid. So
yes.
Text
210-794-9898
to be TJ to that number.
So you can be notified every time we go live, or just subscribe to our YouTube channel and you'll get notified every time we're about to go live. And like always, bring your questions. Let us know what you think. Join the conversation. Let us know if you think we're wrong, because there is a slight chance that we could be.
Argue with you. No, just kidding.
And John will argue all day long with you. So
one of my skills.
Yes. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for supporting us. And we will catch you guys on the next episode of Coffee with the Johns.